Welcome everyone, my name is Fist Truck. So somewhat recently I did a series of videos called How to Ocarina of Time in Elden Ring, which I did a dumbass playthrough slash build guide where I played through Elden Ring in a way that was most similar to the way that you play through The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. Now within those videos, the build was at its heart just a sword and shield build. However, it had a bunch of dumbass shit attached to it because Zelda. So by the end of those videos I said something like, within the next few weeks I'm probably going to come back with an actual sword and shield build because I had a shit ton of fun doing this playthrough. I didn't have a shit ton of fun getting the useless stuff though, but that's what we call content. So here we are with that thing. Now just to preface this build, this is a very plain milquetoast ass build, and by that I mean sword, shield, armor, that's it. No extra weapons, no thrown stuff, no consumables, I mean aside from healing of course, and I do have carry and retaliation on the shield, which is used for just one boss. Now I feel like this goes without saying, however, for those in the back that might say something like, hey, shouldn't you do this? Or couldn't you do this? Or why didn't you do that? Well, my answer to that is, I did not. However, you can. Now, without further ado, once again, my name is Fist Truck, and this is how you hit the subscribe button, and this is how to Sword and Shield in Elden Ring. Also, every Friday I do stream at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's a pretty chill place. We just kind of shoot the shit and talk about this week's gaming news. Come through. Yeah. Step 1, we're gonna start our milquetoast ass build by getting a milquetoast ass sword. Which sword? Well, the legendary sword of aka the Lord Sword and Straight Sword. Now why am I picking this weapon? Well, simple. Because first, it's easy to get, the range is pretty good, which is easy to find out thanks to this convenient picture that's on the wiki. And it looks lovingly plain, which is exactly what we're going for with this build. Now, since I spoke of range and that website, I know someone might be like, hey, why aren't you gonna use the noble slender sword? Well, it looks like it's coated in piss, and farming for it is really fucking annoying, and I play this game to have fun, so I'm not doing that. I tried farming it for a little bit. Once again, the drop is like, fuck it, we're using this one instead. Also, once again, like the way it looks more. Anywho, you could get this sword off of pretty much every single basic ass soldier enemy in this game. They're not shy in dropping it either. It's pretty good, and it scales higher with strength when compared to that noble slender sword, so either way, it's a win-win. Step 2, our plain sword and shield build continues by getting the rarest armor, which can only be found within the deepest reaches of the lands in between, aka the Round Table Hold, which you can buy off the Twin Maiden Husk for a total of 13,500 Eldens. Oh my god, did he say Eldens? How dare he say Eldens? I thought they were called runes. Why are you calling them Eldens? Yeah, I'm calling them Eldens. Suck it. As time goes on, I'm being convinced more and more that the Round Table Hold is an actual Amazon warehouse. By the end of the game, 3 of its employees are dead yet still working, and lastly, another one of them is still being forced to work despite the fact that he is chained to the wall and slowly losing his mind. Also, why the knight armor? It's the closest thing in this game to the fluted armor from Demon Souls, which is pretty close to the elite knight armor from Dark Souls, so it's all a theme build. Remember, Fashion Souls is the true end game of any of these games. Step 3, we're getting our shield, and I'm not gonna bullshit this one. It's yet another plain ass shield, but a pretty good one. The Banished Knight Shield, which drops from the shield wielding Banished Knights. I know, what a surprise. If you're playing through the game in a regular order, chances are the first one you're going to run into is in the dark room that gets closed behind you. It also has a curved sword talisman in it, which, spoiler alert, we're going to be getting that too. I almost shit my pants because the first guy that I fought actually dropped the shield, and if we can recall from my Zelda videos, me and drop chances get along like mayonnaise and cereal. Why the shield? Well, it's simple. The guard boost is the second highest amongst the normal shields in this game, which is really all that matters because you want to lose as little stamina as possible when we're going to be doing our guard counters over and over again. Also, for those people that are going to be like, hey, well, there's another shield that has one more guard boost than this one. So to those people, I would say that the difference in guard boost between these two shields is a whole 1. Also, this shield manages to have good guard boost while not looking like a giant fucking tortilla chip. Alright, now moving on to the last important thing of the build, the Ash of War. Now, I hope you're seated when I say this because the Ash of War we'll be getting is Square Off, which is the Ash Award that comes with the sword. Congrats, the build is complete. All jokes aside, I think we'll get the most mileage out of this weapon for the majority of the game if we give it the heavy infusion, which means that we still need to find the Square Off Ash Award despite the fact that it's already on the weapon to begin with. This can be found off of Beetleborg that can be found within the Siofra River, that underground place thing. Now I'm sure by the end of the game you'll be able to do more damage if you go with the quality infusion. However, the heavy infusion allows us to get more damage out of it sooner, which will come in handy for for the majority of the game as opposed to just one part all the way at the end. Step 5, not going to say much about this because I already talked about this in great length in my How to Ocarina of Time and Elden Ring video, but you're probably going to want to get the Carry and Retaliation Ash Award for your shield, unless you're a parry god and you're already comfortable with parrying with the regular parry frames, in which case get the Parry Ash Award and put it on the shield. I, on the other hand, like having more than twice as many parry frames because that's better than having half as much for literally the same cost, which is 0. Nonetheless, this isn't too important except for one boss, and whenever you're probably fighting an NPC, their movements are pretty predictable, so getting parries on them is incredibly easy. Alright, now finally time to talk about talismans, because depending on what set of talismans you're rocking, this is really going to put the build together and determine your playstyle with the build. So I came up with 3 different sets of talismans that I used for this playthrough. Now keep in mind that every talisman in each of these sets is useful in their own right, however, I feel like you get the most mileage out of them when they're coupled with their own little set. Talisman set number 1, this is going to be your set for early to mid game, or essentially before you get to the Altus Plateau, assuming that you're playing through the game in a regular order and not skipping a bunch of shit. You're going to want to get yourself the Turtle Talisman, you know, the one that works like the Chloranthy Ring from Dark Souls. It speeds up your stamina recovery. Also, assuming once again that you've already killed Margaret, then that means you'll be able to easily get the Curve Sword Talisman within Stormvale Castle. Talisman set number 2. Now I'm going to start assuming that you have all 4 talisman slots unlocked, which means that you've also fucked up the Golden Adonis that can... Now keep in mind that this set is the one that I used for exploration, aka whenever I was not fighting a boss, aka for pretty much most of the game after I've gotten all 4 slots unlocked. So first let's start with the Carrion Filigree Crest, then the Great Shield Talisman, then both of the Assassin's Dagger Talismans, the ones that give you health and FP back on critical hits. Lastly, Talisman set number 3, the one everybody's probably looking for, the Boss Fucker, the Shit Kicker, the Talisman set that has really big balls. We're starting with the Great Shield Talisman, followed by the Curved Sword Talisman, followed by the Alexander Jar Shard, and lastly, rounding it out would be the Dagger Talisman. My thoughts on this build. So as I said in one of my Ocarina of Time videos, I have a really big soft spot for sword and board builds. It's just something that I find cool about having a regular ass shield, a regular ass sword, regular ass armor, yet just dominating all these irregular situations. And at the end of the day, you can probably look at this channel or just scroll through a bunch of build guys on YouTube. No knock towards anyone. We gotta do what we gotta do, but most people are trying to sell you on like how OP a build is. This build is not OP. Nope, not OP at all, but it's fun. At least for me. Was I able to do all the content in this game with this build, keeping in mind that I did no magic damage, I had no projectiles, all I used was my sword and my shield? Yes. After all, that was the point of this build. And one thing I will give this build credit for is that for the most part, even in the how to be cool video, I don't really use the skills ever. I almost never found a use for them since they're really flashy, take a long time to do, and the damage seems to not be worth it. However, just having that square off Ash of War, it's fast, it does a lot of damage, it doesn't use a lot of FP, and it does a shit ton of stagger damage to all the bosses and the enemies. Keeping in mind this is my 13th or 14th playthrough of this game, I really hadn't played through the game like this before, and it goes to show how good the build diversity in this game is. I mean, you know, you gotta give credit where credit's due. They did a really good fucking job. So for those of you who are really into these milquetoast ass builds where you're just a knight, a regular ass knight, I feel like this is probably one of my best. I highly recommend you try this one out. I really feel like this is one of my best builds and honestly probably one of the most fun ones, at least for me, once again. Almost forgot to talk about stats. I beat the game at level 120 yet again because once again, that seems like the average level people beat the game at. Pretty much, I put points it to literally nothing but health, stamina, and strength. So at the end, assuming that you started with the Vagabond class at 50 vigor, 40 endurance, 61 strength, that's it. That about wraps things up. If you made it to the end of this video, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share, or don't. You still made it to the end of the video. Thank you once again. And lastly, don't forget to wipe before you shit.